court, Lily points out. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce Tom's law partner, Jerry Sweeney, to say a few kind words about Tom.
Thank you. Well, it's first-class accommodations we have here. I love this picture that they have here, if anybody can see it. That was the 1984 campaign photograph when Tom was running for Congress. And we used that again in 1986 when he was running for Congress, and again in 1988 when he was running for Congress, and again in 1990 when he was running for Congress, because we like this picture. We used to call it the picture of Dorian Gray, because he would never get older. He stayed in this picture, and after he's died, he still has this picture here. So I think this is a great tribute to him in that he's forever young in our hearts, and this is how we remember him. He had gotten a little ill at the end, and so we have some memories of that, but this is where we remember him in our hearts. And this picture reminds me of Walter McCaffrey, Kathy Nolan, and Luke Adams, and all the people at Ed O'Malley, people we were here on these first campaigns that were, that wasn't even the first one, that was like the 10th one. That was the first one that he was elected to the Congress here. And these were fun times in our hearts. These were times when we were sort of fighting for these neighborhoods to win this election. It was a really nice time, and we have great memories of it. When John spoke to me after Tom had passed, there was a call immediately to name a street. It's what happens when people die, is that they have to have a street named after them. It's one of the great tributes that happens in the city. They have as a requirement that you die before you get the street named after you. It would have been nicer if we could have done it while he was alive, but they don't let you do that. So when we were thinking about streets to be named, the problem is that Tom had a big handprint or footprint over the whole county of Queens. So we could have picked a street down in Woodside where he grew up with his family, or that he raised his family, or where he grew up with his parents. Or there were streets in Astoria where he grew up, where he played football in Astoria Park, or grew up, raised his family, or that was his last residence in Astoria. There was a street over there we could have picked. There was a street down here on 47th Street in Sunnyside where he had a place for about 10 or 15 years. There were so many streets over there. We could have picked one out in the Rockaways because he liked to go out to the beach out there, and he really liked that. So there were many choices that we could have had. And John said to me very early on, he said, I think we should do Queens Boulevard. And I said, I think that might be a really tall order, that this is like a very big boulevard here, and it could be somewhat of a logistical issue and everything else. And but we decided we'll shoot high. They can always give us a smaller street afterwards. So we think it's a great tribute to Tom that they picked this section of Queens Boulevard because it is his legacy to us. Something big because he had a big impact on this county and on this city and on the country in a lot of different ways. And so I look at that building over there where we had a law office together, but before it was a law office, it was a city council office. But after it was a city council office, it was a congressional office. There was a building over there which had burned down a few years ago, but before it burned down, he had a law office in that building in the 60s and the 70s. We used to eat lunch in Sidetracks or Regal Park Cafe, or a place that was on the corner over there that's not there anymore, or in a number of the different restaurants along the way. He liked to eat lunch. I told a story about it at his funeral. I won't go into the whole thing again, but it was an important part of his day. And we think of him every day as we eat lunch, because someone would gather us up for lunch. He used to gather us up and he'd say, anybody thinking about lunch? And we would have lunch. And that would be where we go. I think about it whenever we get a bowl of soup, because he always had soup every time. So those are things that this place brings back memories of. And what happens is that this is a fitting corner. When we would walk to lunch, he would meet each of you. And each of you would come up and say hello to him. And I never, ever, ever saw him refuse to speak to someone and not shake their hand or greet them. They wanted to see their congressman, and he liked seeing them. And he enjoyed that interaction. It was part of him. He liked walking from that corner down to that restaurant and didn't mind all the people that would stop him along the way. Some of them, I see them in the crowd today. And the funny thing about it is, I hated it. You couldn't get to lunch. It would take 15 much. It was like a very long walk. And it was like, after a while, I would just see he had a tremendous amount of patience for people. And he liked it, and he would say to me afterwards, he said, these are my constituents. It's like, this is my job, and they like to meet me, and I like to meet them. He would watch the school emptying out as the district changed from what it was when he was younger representing it to what it was now, which is a very sort of cosmopolitan ethnic melting pot, which has every race, creed, color, ethnicity, and he would just watch the school emptying. I won't yell over the sirens. And we would just watch the school emptying, and he could see these things changing. He would say, like, this district has evolved, and his politics would evolve with it, to a point where he figured out ways of including many different groups, many different races, many different ethnicities in the politics and the fabric of Queens as a Democratic leader. And he was a very good sort of steward of all of the competing interests of Queens County. I see Archie Spigner, who was one of his partners in doing it, and they were men who understood the need to bring up people and help the people behind them, and also to leave a legacy for them. And this is his legacy, what happens here. This is called the Boulevard of Death, and I don't know if it's a great tribute that you get to the Boulevard of Death name there, but I guess after you die, it's a good thing. But what happened is, we would walk across this street, and he would understand. He would say, the reason that this street has such trouble is because people are in a hurry. They're in a hurry to get to that side of the street, not realizing that they have a two-light walk. And if they would try to do it in one light, they're going to get hit by the cars. These people coming from Manhattan or trying to get to Manhattan are in a hurry, and they don't care that you're trying to get across the street too quickly. And he understood that, and when they would write the stories, he would say the boulevard is really not killing it, it's the people using the boulevard that are killing them. And he understood things that were practical. And so it's just sort of an interesting corner that's been named after him, and I think that every time I drive past this corner, I think of him to begin with, and it will be such a great tribute that the place where he spent literally 20 to 30 years of his life, 20 years, representing and working in this area, and it's a great tribute to him. I'm sure that he had two uncles, Peter O'Donnell. I don't mind being a puppet, and you can see the strings being pulled, okay? He had two uncles, Uncle Pat and Uncle Jack, that lived. They were the mayor of, Uncle Jack was there for the '84 campaign too. Anyone that got in his way knew that they should get out of his way. And he never, ever did anything with a light touch. He always did things with a strong Irish hand, and he was a lot of fun to be around, he really was.